Hello friends, hope you're doing good and I'm back after 2 months I think so. I uploaded my last video 2 months back and I'm back here to explain some concepts related to SSRS with MDX. Actually what happened was a couple of my students got placed in some companies where the work is mainly on SSRS with MDX. So I just want to help them out by creating some videos which will help those guys, and not only for those students who got placed and working in SSRS with MDX, and also for one of my friend Daniel Aaron, who commented to one of my videos saying that why you people are scared to work on Microsoft SQL Server Analysis Services as data source in SSRS. So to answer Daniel's question, first let me put in this way. Daniel, by the time we finish MDX training, people will not get complete grip on MDX. So if you continue explaining SSRS concepts with MDX, it will add more burden to them and they may get confused. So that's why we feel that people will be comfortable with SQL Server as data source rather than SSAS. And I'll show you what's the difference between SQL Server and SSAS as data sources in next couple of videos. And before starting the session, I would like to add a request to you guys. So I've added a button, donate. If you are willing or if you get benefited, you can donate it to help me in preparing more stuff like this. Like in getting licenses and in hosting websites. So it's not mandatory. If you feel like you can, then you are welcome. Thank you for this. And Daniel, these next 4 to 5 sessions are dedicated for you, and hope you will enjoy it. And you can write a mail if you are not happy with the quality or the quantity of the videos. So let's start. Before starting, let me close this Chrome. I don't want this to be available on the screen. And yeah, I created a project SSRS with MDX. And before going to this, I would like to show the cube that I have designed for the demo purpose. And if you see, the cube name is Cube for Reports. Just now I created with one cube which has one measure group, that is fact internet sales, and it has couple of dimensions like currency, customer, product, category, subcategory, and so on. There is no other stuff apart from data source, and no roles, no mining structures. As this is not an SSAS training session, this is mainly our concentration will be mainly on SSRS stuff, and hence I created one simple cube which I can access from SSRS project. And if you see here, I created an SSRS project, and the first and foremost thing that you have to do when you work on any SSRS project pointing to any database, the first and foremost thing that you have to do is setting a data source. How the data source will be set when pointing to cubes rather than pointing to relational database. There is no much difference. It acts, both are one and the same. Let me show you an example here. Right click, add new data source, and here you have to give the data source name. I'll name it as cube source. Don't think about my naming conventions. I use pretty awkward naming conventions. Don't go like this. You just give a proper naming convention whenever you are practicing the same stuff. And the major tricky part here is, instead of selecting Microsoft SQL Server, if you select Microsoft SQL Server as type, it will point to relational database. And if our intention is to connect to SSAS database, so we have to select Microsoft SQL Server Analysis Services as the type, also called as the provider. And once you selected this, you can click on edit to set the connection string. And you can see the analysis services which you have selected here under type is by default taken here. And if you can change, you can change it, but if you change, again it will be the same story. The main thing will be changed. Okay, when you click on OK, this will be changed back to SQL Server. So let me keep it back, set it back to analysis services. And when you select analysis services, it only asks for server name and it won't ask for username and password. Why? Because it has always defaulted to Windows authentication. And what is my server name? I don't remember my computer name, so let me go with localhost, and you can see the reports listing here, sorry, the cubes listing here. What are the cubes that are present in this particular server is listed here, and this is the cube I have designed specially to make use in this particular demo. So cube for reports, and if you wish to test the connection, you can test it and click on OK. Now if you click on OK, the data source is set, and from now onwards you can use this data source to read the data from your analysis services cube. Here I would like to add a point, that is people says that all the trainers are training, whenever they train on SSRS, they are taking the SQL Server as data source. The only difference between SQL Server or in taking any data source as any database as data source is until you create the data set. Once the data set is created, everything acts as same. For example, creating a data source for any kind of database is not a big deal. If you observe here, you have to select only the type, what type of data source you are connecting to. If you are connecting to two-dimensional, go with this, or Oracle, select this, or XML, select this, and provide the connection string. So this is a normal stuff, and there is nothing rocket science here. It is plain pure connection setting by selecting the data source. And if you want to connect to Teradata, select Teradata and click on connection string and provide the connection string. Once the data source is set, pointing to either cubes or relational databases or Excel sheets or whatever may be the stuff, SharePoint list, okay, and whatever may be the list. And the next thing is obviously creating the data set. So once the data set is created pointing to any kind of database, then the job is done with the database. So after that, everything is SSRS side, and it will remain same for everything like SQL Server or whatever the database you are pointing to. The stuff of designing the report will remain the same, and in short, the difference in using SQL Server, relational or multidimensional or SharePoint list as database will end at the point where you once you create the data sets for the report. Now let me show you a simple report using Wizard, how to create a report pointing to SSRS database. So I clicked on new report, Wizard, the Wizard opened, and you can see it is asking me whether I have to go for a shared data source, which I have already created here, or the new data source. If you select the new data source, again you have to do the same routine stuff like selecting the type as analysis services and providing the local host and selecting the database and so on. So to avoid these repetitive tasks, I created one shared data source, and here I'm selecting the shared data source, the cube_source as the shared data source, and click on next. The next Wizard page it's just like pointing to SQL Server. If you observe, there also we set the first we set the connection and then the query and then design. So the same will be repeated here for SSRS cube database as source. When you point to cube database also. So when you click on query builder, and if you are pointing to relational database, then it will show you what are the tables that are present in that database. Now here it will show you the cube. You might have seen this in SSRS, the cube browser. Okay, so it will show you the cube browser. What you have to do is select the customer or whatever you want. Let me go with a simple one. I don't want to confuse you by taking a complex query here. I selected English product name, and I'm selecting sales amount, and I'm selecting tax amount. Let's say I'll go for these two. and let me go for color also. Okay, and if you want to filter out the data, then you can use the filter part. So this is one important thing. Let's say I'm taking this out, I'm using this one as filter part here. Now it is saying what hierarchy this guy belongs to. This guy belongs to product dimension, hierarchy is color, and what kind of filter you want to check. You want to check equal, not equal. You're going to filter the data. So you want to check equal, for example. And what is the filter expression? Like if you want to select only one or two colors, let's say I'm selecting only gray color. So the data here will be filtered for gray color. There is no products with this color information. Let me select multi. You may have some products. So it filtered for only multicolor products and gray color products. In the same way, if you select all, everything will be shown. I mean, all the products that belongs to the colors that we selected will be shown. And if you want to have this as a parameter, okay, we'll come back to that later. This parameter option here. Well, as part of this first report, let's work on a simple requirement. Okay, now the query is ready. If you want to see the query, you can use this design mode button. Click on this design mode. You can see some complex, not complex, a simple MDX query written in complex way. So by seeing these queries, people will get confused and they don't understand what's happening, and that is why, that is the main reason people, trainers don't go for cube database or multidimensional databases as source for the reports. And people need, students need some time to get familiar with the MDX concepts, and that's why we can't give that much gap to the training sessions, and that is why we follow with we continue with SQL Server as data source. And we know very well, once this data set is ready, then remaining stuff is same for everything, any kind of data source, SharePoint list, Excel, or whatever it may be. Here, if you see the third page of the wizard, it is like selecting the report type. What report type you're gonna you want to display. So here I'll go for let's say tabular report. Click on next. And what you want in which one. For example, here I want it in group and details. Let me click on next. What kind of report you want, it stepped or blocked? Let me go for stepped. And if you want to include subtotals, include it. And enable drill down, let's do that later. So and I'll go for my favorite color. First report with MDX. And click on finish. So once the report is generated, you have to do some touch up, like increasing the size if you think the size is not enough, and renaming the columns if you wish to, and alignment and all. So if you see these two, it's better to set, as these two are the values, it's better to set these two to right align. So let me select, here it is right align, fine. And this is textual information, so let me set it to left align. And I don't want this guy. I'll rename this text box as sales info, and I'll rename this column name as products. I like to give some good name. So this is it. A simple report pointing to SSRS data source is completed here, and you can see the total is included for every row, which will not make any sense. So let me remove this total for now, and I'll add it back. Okay, delete rows, fine, gone. Now let me show this. Oops, I deleted the group. One second, let me change it back. My intention is to delete only the row. Delete rows. One second. This is the total column. You can see the sum is showing here. This is the group totals. So what you have to do is, you have to delete this particular row delete rows and associated groups. It is not true. Delete rows only. I want to delete only row so that the group will remain there. And here you have to select the English product name. So let me execute it now, and you can see products, sales amount and tax amount, and it looks good. Not so great. There are some formatting issues. Let me format the stuff. Let's say for this guy I'll format it to there is a format option. Let me check that first. Yeah, format. I think D2 will take you to decimal, and for this guy also I'll set the same D2. Oops, it's not correct. Let me better give this guy hash. Okay, I've set some format, and I'm asking it to give for only 2 decimals, and it will give only 2 decimal values. And now if you see, the report looks good. So this is how you can create a report using report wizard pointing to MDX, multi-dimensional database. And this is a very basic level of reporting, and this is not the best way to do the report. Okay, in next video we are gonna see the complex report using report wizard pointing to multi-dimensional database. Thank you guys.